Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 196th episode of our first YouTube run through the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours, playing as the Archaeologist. Now, I've got my little notebook up here, or, well, my tablet, but I don't have anything on the to-do list, and I will confess it feels like it's been a while, so let me just take a quick look and see what we are up to. I will take a moment here and share, the fact that I'm reading Cosley's work suggests I probably don't have anything to do for the rest of the day, and that we were just waiting to cross over into autumn, which is fine because I'll use that as an opportunity to maybe craft some items. We have probably just enough time to do probably not the highest level. Well, now we could probably get by even with a high level one, assuming that I wanted to. But anyways, God, sorry, there were a couple things that I want to say off the top. So yeah, we'll take the rest of the day for crafting. And then as far as preliminary material was concerned, I never really know the right way to bring up sort of housekeeping and other stream-oriented details, but I did want to share that it has been a lot of fun lately to... Oh, actually, sorry, there is one other thing that I want to do, and that's... Oh, hang on, no, not with the 7s. Yeah, I do eventually want to start leveling up a few of these skills, but I'm not quite there yet for these. And we do not have anything to level up. But yeah, there have been a couple... This might just be an indication that I'm spending a little more time on online sources. But I have been running into a few more people on, the Weather Factory blog, on Reddit, a few other places, who are recognizing the name. And you are all very... It's gotten to a point, and this is... in the sense of growth for the channel, like, this is nice in the sense that it just indicates that the number of people has gotten larger, but the number of negative interactions are often very small. Like, I can still remember the time when I was getting ready to stream, I believe it was stream House of Light, and someone basically said, I hope it's not System Chalk. But the number of negative interactions are quite small compared to the number of times people come out and say, hey, I like your stuff. And that's, some of you have been coming into the Twitch channel, some of you have been coming into the, have been spotting me on the subreddits or any of that. And I'm always split a little bit in terms of saying the individual names or not, mostly just because I have always sort of felt it can be really frustrating when you see some voices come up and you've been a really long time viewer and it just happens to be that name didn't come up, and that usually is just kind of a recency bias, right? That, you saw a name on a subreddit and that came to mind, and I don't know, I've never felt good about it whenever I feel ignored, but that's a long way of saying, and I do want to get on with the game, but I did want to just take a minute here and say that it's one of these things that I do notice. I am small enough that the time that someone takes to say, I like your stuff on a subreddit or, a Weather Factory blog or something like that, is still to a point where, like, that feels nice and it's appreciated. And there's never really a great way to express that. So I take the time on these ones here. And that goes in general, just because there's, one instance I might be thinking of right now. That is just a very nice, steady little drumbeat. In fact, I will share, this was a while ago, but in some private correspondence with someone affiliated with this game, that the dynamic of YouTube comments that I got for the Weather Factory stuff compared to some of the other stuff that I had done was night and day different, which made them feel quite good. So all of that is to say is that if you've ever said something nice online, know that you've contributed to a very nice overall impression of this game and its community, and that it is something that is appreciated both from me individually as a creator, but there's actually kind of a broader number who appreciate that fact about it. And it's maybe one of those things that isn't always openly recognized. All right, now you've been very patient with me, so let's take the time to wrap up the day. I think at the very least, I might try and get some more resources. So let's get some gardening in. And I kind of have enough. I have enough that I should be able to fill up all the gardening slots. Maybe not brave enough to use up the crack track yet, but... I might go for the water, but let's take care of the rest here first. Part of this is also a little experiment to see if I can run out of skills before I run out of gardening slots. And looks like that may be so. I'm curious if... Interesting. Alright, the history plant has risen. Gather its blooms. I think that's it. We're going to have to leave Trumpeter's Lily for another time. We can also head out to the moor. Again, at this point, I think probably just filling up as many of these slots as I can is sufficient. Right, those are the deep light coils. All right. Now, we should already have a sacrament ascite to work with, but it would be rather nice. In fact, this will be my excuse to draw up something from the well. Let's make a... another glass finger toxin. And now I need to remember what it takes to make a glass finger toxin. This is probably not the spot I want to do it as well. Okay, this will take a liquid. Okay. I always keep getting this one wrong. I think I'm going to have to settle for letting the time pass. Rat. Okay. Again, I don't want to... I'm not going to spend the whole day on this, but this is a chance for me to... this is kind of a chance for me to prep for autumn. And I do have some specific plans in mind. We were doing edicts. Luminal. Aha! Well, in this case, the plus shaft will take me through. I may regret that and want it for something else, but... Now, suppose another... I think we're doing okay for Orpiment Exalt. Oh, yeah. We should probably invite Hokabald at some point. In fact, we have most but not all of the more advanced inks. Now, I don't recall if I was working on any Serpent's Milk or not, but what I'll do here is I'll get some Perinculate. I think we can do that with Disciplines of the Scar. And I might even go so far as to try and make a... So if we're going to make the Serpent's Milk, we need Perinculate. And I thought I had made some and put it in here. Or maybe it's on the bridge. Yep. Now I have complicated things for myself in the sense that I... Well, you know what? We can still probably use Collar's desk for this, so I'll take the metal. I can put an ink at the desk. That won't do. But... Which of these? Serpent's Milk. I probably got rid of the good one. Yeah, I'm going to need 15 on these. Well, here's what we'll do. I will... Okay. This is going to be a chance for me to see which of these can give me... That's really interesting that I can't get more Serpent Milk. Okay. So it might be that I've tossed away my best options for these. I need to find another 4. Cat's Claw would give me something. I may not have it on the bridge, though. I think I'm actually willing to hold back on making the Serpent Milk, just putting it on the too difficult list. So, you know, we're just going to gather. I think we spent enough time on this. There's a few other options that I have in terms of just ways of sort of messing around with the order of things. But, I don't know, this is the one challenge that I run into whenever trying to craft some of these things in advance. Like, I already do quite a bit of planning ahead of time. And so the inevitable question is, like, what is all this for? And then number 2, like, what... like, what's the end point in terms of prepping? Like, I mean, like, how many Orpiment Exaltants do I really need? How many histories am I going to write? So there, you know, I don't think it hurts to have some prep. I don't think it hurts to have some items. But, you know, right now, time is one of the things that's keeping me from moving to the place where I want in the game, right? Which in this case is the next season. So spending too much time on that prep just kind of comes at the cost of more interesting things we could be doing. So this is Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, or The House of Glass. Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. Techniques for perception and analysis which permit invidious and apocalyptic conclusions. Probably the most assiduously suppressed book in history. The entire run was destroyed. Even the presses were melted and dispersed, but the manuscript edition has survived. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal, but Cosley proposes and describes confinement inescapable, aesthetic and optical techniques which might contain even an hour, profoundly disrupting the order of the Mansis. He presents this as his own work, but there are hints here and there that he received inspiration or even assistance from the nowhere hour named Snow. And this gives us inescapable confinement. Now, part of this was so that I can get a better record of the various Newmans. I usually do this at least once a broadcast, but I now have sort of my own sheet for each broadcast. So in this case, I'm going to be recording these by the book. So in this case, Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, and The Inescapable Confinement comes with 5 knock, 5 scale, and 5 winter, and I will read the description for this. Everything ultimately comes down to a choice between eternity and history. There's only one place you're safe from both, and it's not a place anyone would want to be. It's a prison that can only exist in certain histories. Any librarian can use this to establish a history and complete the game, but the prodigal and the archaeologist can win a particular victory, which of course is relevant for me. So that was the hurry the heck up sound that we heard. In this case, I don't have too much to do. We're just going to get a collection. I'll still work the sweet bones one more time. I have a little money to make. I think there was a period where I could have been, but didn't work, which again, we're doing fine for money. That's not really the purpose, but. Right, unexpected folds in the finds in the folds of earth and sky. I don't mind letting the timer run while we collect these. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Alright, sea-strewn, salt-snared stuff. It also just occurred to me that I forgot to open the... there was an item in the vault that I should have opened. Gather the spiny fluorescences of the sea holly. Okay, glassfinger toxin. Probably should have thought where I was going to keep this. Gather the scented blossoms of the fragrant chalice. The history plant has risen. Gather its blooms. A little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. Carrots, tomatoes, marrows, and blessed onions, all the unsung heroes of the stew pot. Pluck the grapes from the vine. Scraps from the aisle's edge. Not going to be able to do much about that sound. With keeper level edge, Perenculate is the precursor to serpent milk. Gleanings from the darkness, that'll help replace for the Perenculate. We'd missed the quartz chunk. And... alright. So it'll take us a minute to open the package, which means that... well, I mean, we could try opening the package overnight, and that just means that I have one fewer... element to the soul. I don't know. We'll see. I am going to make a slightly more conscious... actually, it did occur to me that I don't have any other memories, so in this case we will dream on the memory. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. So my biggest hesitation in terms of opening up the royal casket here would be that we may be going into Numa. Now I don't exactly need the elements of the soul that I did before, for the simple reason that I can't break up any of these memories. Sorry, that's not entirely true. I could do this with the... oh no, I can't because I've committed the languages too. Yeah, so we can't break up any of the memories. But I don't know. I feel like sticking with what I've got makes the most sense. I actually have more money than I know what to do with. Yeah, so we'll leave it here, and then we'll see what autumn brings. We'll almost certainly do a salon. In fact, I didn't really prepare for that at all, but that's not... I mean, part of that's just I'm trying to not over-prepare for the next few days. But I do want to get a little more strict in terms of how I am leveling my various... all right. Another season without Numa. So I'm going to get a little stricter in terms of my standards for, in terms of my my elements of the soul, but I do have other opportunities to improve them. So the ones I'm thinking of right now, very clearly with Arab, if I level that higher, I still have 7 left over. If I level Fet, again, I'll have 6 left over. So those are fine. So in this case, Arab, Fet, Metal, and Shapt are all the obvious candidates for upgrades. Now, moving forward, I think it's also true that I can level up things like Trist, Whist, because the aim here has always been to have 6 elements of the soul for the Salons, and you do get to use the higher level core and such in the Salons. So the idea that I need to have 6 base level ones is a mistake. It's one that I kind of knew going in. I think I even talked about this in a previous episode. But at least as far as like something basic to work with while I'm moving forward, I still think that this is a reasonable way to go. So we've got a few different things to do at the start of autumn. For some reason, I was quite eager to get to autumn this time around, mostly just because this was the week for sure where like it started to get genuinely colder and the leaves are starting to turn. So I always kind of like it when the seasons match in Book of Hours. It just feels good. Current affairs, what's happening in the world beyond Brandkrug? What visitors will the season bring? So here we're going to get a new season. We don't know who will be the first visitor. So I want an answer on that first. For the house, I think the first thing we will do is open the... Well, yeah, we'll open the Royal Casket because I may want to take the option to open up another part of the house. We'll open the Slim Parcel. So if the aim was to open up the Sealed Vault, I think that would be a job for Reverend Timothy. Which actually just as well, because we've got the Inescapable Confinement. That's probably why I read that, actually. So let's take the time to work out... Yeah, so Reverend Timothy, Shapt, Newman, and the Sacrament Asite. Which, of course, gives me a reason to be working at the Sweet Bones. I'm also going to take a second here and take 2 Shapt, 2 Metal, and 2 Arab. So these are specifically dedicated for leveling up. Reverend Timothy's words always run ahead of him, but his thoughts always catch up in the end. Speak with Reverend Timothy. Reverend Timothy enjoys thoughtful conversation, prayer, and tea, and he'll offer his assistance in return for a 1 shilling donation to church funds. We do appreciate the contribution. All right, so that's it for Reverend Timothy. Still haven't figured out who I'm going to invite to the salon yet, and I should work on that at some point, but we've got all the time in the world. Let's go for... We should definitely start reading some books again. So let's go... I think I even had a specific order in mind. Oh, that's interesting. So we read this, but I didn't, for some reason, record what the memory was. I also seem to recall I had an order in mind for how I was going to do these. I'm actually going to put a few of these in. So I feel like this is an appropriate one to read at the same time, just for context. But I really want to do the Red Book of Brittany. If nothing else, just so I can work with the Inks of Power. This one is 12, so we should have a nice big... Was it Sky Stories? Pearl and Tide. I can master this mystery. So the question is, do I want to do the radical measure as well? I think we'll leave it at that. I'm already working on 2 books, and I am not working on any replacements for the... I'm not working on any of the memories that I'll be putting into these next steps. So, I do appreciate that I'm running out of time for the episode, so we're going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to try and make some time just so that we can get the ball rolling with Reverend Timothy, but what I want to do here is I want to try and level up the knock. Actually, we've got a FET here. So if I use the VAC in a Nyctodromy slot... Tempting. Come on, we got to be able to use VAC at this one. Yeah. Oh, but we can also here. Expand my FET. Nyctodromy will show my FET where we can go. Maybe Hyksos will help with the Arab? It will indeed, for Skolakosophy. So that's got to be over here. Oh, and yep, that'll work too. Well, theoretically. Hyksos, yep. Skolakosophy will unchain my Arab. Horomachistry. I'm doing much better than last time on these. Horomachistry will heighten my aspirations. Part of that is memory from last time. And I seem to recall we looked for a shapt and we didn't have them in here. So now the question is, where did I get some shapt? All right, serpents and venoms, that's another Skolakosophy, so that's a challenge. I have a feeling that the Nocturnary might count. This will just help me visuals-wise. Yep, okay. But doesn't seem hospitable to shapt. This probably will be, though. Ah, but Serpents and Venoms is not. All right. Interesting dilemma. I think that's it. I don't think we have any other viable candidates. So, that's fine. That just means that we move along on the scale, so this would be a question of Nyctodromy. That's Birdsong. These should all be like Boskin related. Oh, that works. Yeah, actually, this will probably do the trick. Open my shaft. Nyctodromy will make my will take my shaft to new thresholds. Okay, so I'm feeling decent with where we're at in terms of the various skills. And again, we'll give Reverend Timothy some time. I should maybe, well, no, I'll see what the lessons are before I start reading the books. But what I'll maybe do with the rest of the day, I'll start preparing the salon. Rector's assistants. Reverend Timothy, rector of Brandkrug, ordained by the Church of the Unconquered Sun, a learned man, blessed in the tally, the gate, and the light. Make use of the rector's help before dawn. Okay. So for Reverend Timothy, we're going to start with the inescapable confinement. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. Now, one of the reasons why I did that is so I can sneak a peek at my other text, in this case, Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, second edition. And again, it's not so much about the contents of the book as it is for me to just make sure that I've got the proper record for the three aspects. I'm mildly tempted to listen to a phonograph and watch a film as well, but we're going to keep our attention on leveling up the elements of the soul and then opening up the sealed vault. We still have another minute for something exalted. But I think I'm going to have to leave that there. I realize it's one where, if anything, we're just sort of setting up the next few steps, but I am looking forward to seeing what autumn brings this time around. I can actually see a number of interesting things happening. So number one, of course, we have the new event. I will definitely put some thought in terms of who will be arriving for the next salon. I'd kind of like that to be driven by the event, but I have a whole bunch of cooking ahead of me to do all of that. And then part of the fun as well is going to be working out the how I want to level up the various skills. Again, we're going to focus where we can on raising the floor for the skills that I have. But the sort of finale for today will definitely be getting Reverend Timothy to open the granite floor sealed with white wax. But of course, all of that will happen in the next episode. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on Wednesday for the next episode. Until then, take care.